Okay, is everyone on? Is everyone, ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 p.m. Nico Isiano with the Planning Commission of the City of Indio. I'd like to call this meeting of 126 to order and declare we have quorum. Can we get a roll call, please, Vanessa?
Yes, sir. Chairperson Isiano,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Ceja is absent this evening. Commissioner Franz,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Valdez.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lopez, can you lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance?
Do my honor. Right hand over your heart. Let's go ahead. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And I don't believe we have any minutes for approval. For public comment, if anyone has any public comment on the virtual meetings, please speak slowly and start by giving your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Vanessa, do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
I apologize. We did not see any, and I don't see any raised hands.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll move on to public hearing items. I'll open the public hearing at this time. And item 4.1 is Church at the Red Door CUP permit. Kevin, do you have a staff report for us on this?
I do. Thank you, Chair. For the record, Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development. And this evening, as the Chair indicated, this is a public hearing for Church at the Red Door. It is, excuse me, it is for a conditional use permit, CUP 20-10-1064, and design review 20-05-474. So the property in question, the Planning Commission is familiar with this property. You previously considered and made recommendations to the City Council regarding the Church of the Red Door specific plan. That specific plan was approved by the City Council on June 16th, 2021, and is the operable zoning regulations for the property pertaining to allowed land uses and development standards. So the property in question is located at the southeast corner of Avenue 49 and Jefferson. It's approximately 13 acres, and it has a general plan designation of connected neighborhood. And the zoning, as I indicated before, is governed by the adopted Church of the Red Door specific plan. So again, we are here before this evening in front of the Planning Commission to have the Planning Commission review, discuss, and potentially take action on a conditional use permit. The place of worship is considered a conditional use in the adopted specific plan. And as such, it requires a public hearing and consideration by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is the final decision maker unless there is an appeal to the City Council. They're also being asked to look at a design review application. This is for site design, circulation, landscape, and architecture on the site. And again, it's, oh, you know what? I apologize. I think, sorry, let me just check here. Okay. I apologize. I wanted to make sure I had the right PowerPoint. There is, I just realized in there, there's an incorrect reference. It says southwest corner. It should be southeast corner. So my apologies for that incorrect reference. The project itself is broken up into 4 phases, and the descriptions are here on the screen. I will not read them all, but I'll note some key things. Phase 1 is the the sanctuary building that'll have a maximum capacity of 584 seats, and it will be that building associated with the sanctuary will be constructed at the northwest corner of the site. As the commission remembers, a primary issue when the specific plan was going through was access. So per the council decision-making and direction, primary access for this site is to be on or off Jefferson Street only. The council directed in its consideration that emergency access only would be allowed on Avenue 49. And as you read down, you can see that there are other buildings will come in different phases. We understand that these phases will occur as funding becomes available. And the final phase, phase 4, will also involve the potential construction of up to 123 additional parking spaces that will ultimately lead to 359 on-site spaces. So here's just an overview of the site. It shows the building locations and I should note at this time to take a moment, when the commission considered the specific plan and ultimately went to city council for its consideration, the house that's shown on this site plan was planned to be part of the overall campus development. Subsequently, that has changed, and the house will now retain its own separate status, separate from the church. What that means is that the final parcel map that will go to city council will actually show that there is a delineation between the two, and access for the house will continue to be off the existing access that is present on Avenue 49. That will be access only for the house. There will be no shared access between the campus and the house. Again, I'm just showing some various pictures. This kind of shows you the different phases of development. Again, phase 1 here, phase 2 there, phase 3 here, and phase 4. And again, with phase 4, the lighter shade gray area on the south end of the property is where that additional parking would be installed. This is a landscape plan. I think this does a good job of kind of showing a couple things. One, that there is a planned delineation between the access for the house and the parking area for the church campus. Well, this shows a primarily desert-oriented landscaping. There are some exceptions, and during council consideration, the council did authorize that there be allowances for grass in accordance with IWA standards. And that I will address that in a minute in the supplemental memo that I submitted to the commission. This is some additional details about the landscaping and various features. This shows the variety of plants and trees that they are planting. And then these are just some elevations that are planned for the site. What you may remember from the conceptual plans that were submitted as part of the specific plan, they are opting for a more contemporary design thematic, flat roofs, more desert-friendly materials. So this is what they're putting in front of you this evening is consistent both with what they presented at the specific plan, and there has been no major deviations from what was discussed before. Here's some representations of what the church will look like. These may look familiar because they're very similar, if not the same, to what was presented to the commission previously. You can see that this is the top two pictures are the looking from north to southeast. That's the primary sanctuary building. You may remember the architectural feature. There was a lot of discussion around that. The architectural feature is shown there. That is consistent with the height parameters that are allowed under the specific plan. The pictures at the bottom show you the primary access point to the sanctuary and give you kind of a sense of that, again, that modern and contemporary design thematic. So yesterday, I submitted to the Planning Commission a memo that contains some additional information. First, I apologize, but in the packet, I failed to include a marked up version of the specific plan that represented the changes from the council decision on June 16th. So you have that as a copy. Also, I am recommending that condition of approval be number 89 be amended that right now it says there shall be no grass or similar water demanding turf allowed. That the city council on its approval of the specific plan did direct that the amount of grass must comply with the rules of the Indio Water Authority. So condition number 89 would need to be modified to specify that grass will be compliant with the rules of the Indio Water Authority. I am recommending 2 striking of conditions. These pertain to loading docks. And the applicant reached out and said that they do not plan to have any loading docks. They did provide an email. The applicant's representative provided an email in which they attested that there will be no loading docks. It would be unusual to have loading docks for this type of use anyway, so I think it's appropriate the conditions of approval number 73 and 74 be struck. In addition, I wanted to note there were a couple of errors in the staff report. I tried to correct all of them, but I did miss a couple, so I just want to note them for the record. Excuse me. Condition of approval number 56 in resolution number 1982 does reference the wrong project file number. It references DR 20-09-479, and that should be DR 20-05-474. On resolution 1981,
Kevin,
the 5th recital, the whereas, there was an incorrect reference to the Planning Commission conditionally approving the CUP, and that is incorrect. That's a carryover from a previous version that I missed. And in essence, as
Kevin?
Commission, yes.
Pardon me. I think we're still on the previous slide. We're not seeing the.
I'm just verbally, Chair. I'm just
Oh.
verbally pointing these out. I did not write them out.
Okay, got it.
I'm
I'm
just
sorry.
walking the commission
I missed
through
that.
these minor, what I call Scribner errors.
Okay.
That are
Sorry,
minor
I
in
missed
nature
that.
that
Thank
this
you.
would need to be corrected.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So these are just minor Scribner errors that I did not put on the screen, but these are things that in your consideration of potential action would want the commission to provide allowance for staff to make these minor corrections, these Scribner error corrections. They don't have substantive impact. They literally are just correcting minor errors. So as I was saying, as you may remember, when the commission considered the specific plan, the commission ended in a 2-2 tie on the vote, which was a no recommendation that went to City Council. In the 5th recital for resolution 1981, which pertains to the conditional use permit, there is an incorrect reference about the recommending conditionally approving the CUP in April 2021. So we would want to change that reference just to reflect the record that it was a no recommendation from the Planning Commission. And then 2 other ones in the staff report under evidence for finding C for the design review. There was a sentence left in there. In addition, since this is an existing building, that was a leftover from a previous staff report that I inadvertently missed. And then there's a typo in the description of the phases of development in the staff report. Under phase 3, it should have read phase 3 will consist. It reads phase 2. So I would want to correct that as well. Again, these are minor in nature. They don't have substantive impact, but just to make the record clear, we would want to have the allowance from the commission to correct these Scribner errors. So staff is recommending that the commission adopt resolution 1981 and with allowing with corrections to allow a place of worship at the site, the project site. Oops, excuse me. Staff is also recommending that the commission adopt resolution 1982 as amended for conditions of approval 73, should be 73, 74, and 89 for site design, circulation, landscape, and architecture. And with that, happy to answer any questions. I believe the applicant is present and they do at the appropriate time, I believe, want to make some comments, and I will be assisting them. They did submit a video that they would like to play for the commission when they do make their comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll give applicant a moment to give their comments shortly. First, do we have any commissioner questions for staff? Commissioner Franz?
Thank you. Yes, I do have a question. Kevin, I know that these corrections are minor, but
Mhm.
there is quite a few of them.
Yep.
So would it be possible between now and the time that we go to make a motion, assuming that's where we end up, that we can get these somehow listed
Yes.
in a way that we can show them for the record? Because I really feel uncomfortable with that many, just saying, please fix them.
So while you're listening to the applicant and any other parties, I will be off to the side doing that. I recognize that. Thank you, Commissioner. I recognize that my verbal, well, it's on the record. I recognize that it would help the commission to have them written down. So I will be off to the side preparing that for you and adding them to the PowerPoint presentation so that you can review them before you engage in any deliberation or consideration.
Perfect. And then that way they're also part of the record, right?
Well, they're verbally part of the record, but there will also be a written part. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you. More?
Yeah, I have one more. Since I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this right. Since the house is no longer part of the plan, right? It's been removed. When the applicant took this to the city council for approval of the specific plan, there was also like a tentative map and all these other things. Does this in any way impact or require them to come back before we do this part to get that amended? Because I don't think it does, but I want it for the record to make sure that that is not something that needs to be done.
That's a great question, Commissioner. No, it does not. So the applicant will have to submit, they did receive a conditional tentative map approval for what was considered the tentative map at that time, which was the house being part of the overall campus. Now it is subsequently the current property owner decided to sell the property for single-family residential purposes. And so it will be utilized for that. And when there's an application for final map, we will correct that as part of the record. But it was already planned to be 2 lots of record. That's why the tentative map. The only difference that you will see is there is no longer a physical connection between the church campus and the house, i.e. you couldn't connect via them. We now have a barrier in place where the parking area and the drive for the house are physically disconnected. So in consultation with the city attorney and the city engineer, we determined that that could be corrected at the final map stage.
Okay. And like you stated, there is no connecting point between the house.
Yes, I will go back to the, I think this probably best shows it. As you can see, there's a parking area that is adjacent to the drive for the house. And that area is physically disconnected. There is landscaping. So there is no opportunity to drive into the site, to park in any way, access that. That is intentional because, again, this is planned to be the house is planned to be separate from the church campus.
And so then in this case, they maintain the no access on Avenue 49 except for emergency purposes because of the disconnect.
That is correct. The access off of Avenue 49 for the church campus is for emergency access only. The house, there is an existing access point. If you drive out there today, you would see it. And that will be retained so that the house does have access out to a public right of way.
Okay, that's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any other commissioner comments or questions for staff? I have one, Kevin. The feature in front, the red cross, you said that is currently within the specific plan height requirements. What is that? Is that still at 35 feet now?
So the allowance was for 35 feet, and I believe they are at 32, if memory serves me correctly.
Okay, 32 feet.
And so in that instance, as the commission may remember, early on, there was a much larger architectural feature that was a concern to the commission. The applicant voluntarily reduced that down, and they're slightly below that in recognition of the concerns raised by the commission. So I do think that they did listen in that regard.
And there is some monument signage, not here at this point, but near the entrance. Is that correct?
Yes, let me get back to an image. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. So you can see some monument signage in the pictures below. As you come in, there will be some monument signage that will, and again, it will have to comply with a specific plan, that will be more directional in nature, but intended to direct people onto the site. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
If there are no other commissioner comments, then we can go to the applicant and hear what they have to say. Please give your name and address for the record as well.
And Chair, if I might suggest we open the public hearing, the public comment portion of the public hearing, and invite the applicant to speak.
Okay, yeah, let's open the public comment section of our public hearing.
And then allow the applicant to provide their presentation at this point.
Okay, if the applicant would like to speak, please. Who are we talking with?
Jeff, why don't you go ahead and do your introduction at this point, please?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the Planning Commission members, and we're excited about the possibility of this moving to the next level. My name is Jeffrey Cranford, and I'm the senior pastor at Church of the Red Door. Just to give you just a little bit of a background, I'll keep this under 4 minutes. I came out here 35 years ago, moved into Indio Smoke Tree Apartment, and have been out here for a significant amount of time. Came out to work for Landmark, and there was kind of a slow transition to ministry. Worked at a number of different clubs here in the Valley as a GOT professional, and involved the PJ Tour. And out of that, in some ways, was birthed Church of the Red Door 6 years ago. I just wanted to give you just a small taste, just in terms of the vision for Church of the Red Door. I wanted you to know I tell our congregants all the time, we're not primarily here to provide religious services for religious people. And by that, I mean, we're really here to serve the community. It's our call. And a big part of that is even last year in the middle of COVID with a small church plan of about 5 years, we gave in excess of $100,000 to various organizations that I think are going to have a substantive effect on Indio specifically. Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, we volunteer, we're involved on an ongoing basis. Ministries to unwed mothers, 2 different ones, Narrow Door, Feeding the Poor, etc. And just our call to just share the good news that God loves people. And so that really is the essence of our mission and our vision. I think it's also important to say that we do really care about our neighbors. I know that came up at some various points. Just as an illustration of that, we did not meet at all physically for over 1.5 years. And that was a great liability to what we were trying to do. But again, out of a desire to care for our Valley residents and our neighbors, we chose not to do that. I just say these last 2 things. For us, location is crucial. We feel like we're surrounded by people that we are called to serve in this particular place. And our attempts are not necessarily just to reach the religious community, but to serve all people. And when I think about what that looks like, I think about families that are impacted, untold costs to the community of Indio and the surrounding communities, counseling for addiction, and all the different things that just a church does in the community. I would just suggest to the Planning Commission that we really, really have a desire to have a positive effect on this end of the Valley. And it's the very purpose for which we exist. And so with that, I will turn it back to the next presenter. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is David Keitel. I'm with Doma Studio Architects. I'm the architect and principal of the firm. We've been working with the church for over 2 years. And if Kevin could play the video, that'd be great. This is a view of the building from the corner, Avenue 49 in Jefferson. You can see the mixture of materials of stucco, Corten, perforated Corten steel, glass, and CMU block. The building is set back 62 feet from the front property line with a portion of the sanctuary anchoring the corner. Majority of the building is 14 feet tall. Mechanical wells that you see in front of you are 20 feet tall, and then the sanctuary is only 31 feet tall. The cross is 35 feet tall, contrary to what was discussed before. You can see the church monument sign at the entry. The architecture is very modern and reminiscent of modern architecture that you find in the valley, utilizing CMU block and stucco and flat roofs and many indoor-outdoor spaces. The building is meant to be transparent to invite the community in and not be a barrier. And I think that there are many overhangs and outdoor spaces for walking and socializing outside, out of the sun. This is the entry bridge into the sanctuary. There's a covered exterior area prior to entering the sanctuary. And then the back side, and as you spin back around, you see back around to the corner of Avenue 49 and Jefferson. If there's any questions, I will be here to answer them for you. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Or does the applicant have anyone else that would like to speak? Okay, being no questions for the applicant. Vanessa, do we have any public comments on this item?
Yes, I did receive one person in the lobby. Let me allow them to speak. Miss Christy Daniel, are you available?
Yes.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
So my family and I are new to Rancho La Quinta, so we're very, very close to the location of the church. And just apologies if you've covered some of these topics because we're new. We're just sort of catching up. I guess our main concern as neighbors is sort of sound, right? So amplified sound. I see there are a lot of outdoor spaces, so I'm just curious about whether there's going to be, worship, concerts, activities where there's going to be amplified sound, because we literally are just across Jefferson from you. And then the other question that I have is related to traffic. So there's currently some construction on Jefferson, and it has to do with the new citrus, the series of citrus shops there on Jefferson. And it has a significant impact on traffic flow, just having a single lane closed, by a small portion of a single lane being closed. And so I'm just imagining 500 people, coming in at certain times. Was there an environmental impact report? What are the accommodations that are being made for traffic flow? Probably just typical questions that neighbors are going to have.
Sarah, would you like me to respond?
Please.
Okay. First question. The adopted specific plan does not allow sound amplification. So there will be no allowed sound amplification for any events, interior or exterior. There was a significant environmental analysis done as part of that. There was a traffic study that was done. It was reviewed by the city's traffic engineer. And based on the findings therein, it was determined that there was adequate capacity in Jefferson Street. There will, as the speaker pointed out, there will be some disruptions because there is some modifications that will need to be done to Jefferson Street to accommodate some of the turning movements. That would include extending the left turn aisle. However, other than that, there is capacity. There will be, I won't say there won't be periods of disruption. I can't say that, but it was evaluated and determined to be within the parameters of the city's adopted engineering standards, and therefore the city traffic engineer and the city engineer accepted the findings of the traffic study.
So did I understand you correctly? No amplification inside or outside?
Or would you like me to respond?
Please.
Yes, ma'am. In our world, it's called a specific plan. Basically, it's a plan that the council adopts for the property, and it has very detailed requirements in it. And one of those requirements is that there is no sound amplification allowed. This was an issue that our city council, both our planning commission and our city council discussed. And when the city council elected to approve the specific plan, they did require that there be no sound amplification.
I wonder if you and I, sorry, just for clarification, I wonder if you and I are defining amplification differently, or maybe Senior Pastor Cranford has a booming voice. I mean, there'll be no amplification inside the church, for 500 people?
So I can't speak to the pastor's voice, I apologize. But the intent is that there be no sound amplification. So perhaps I would leave it to the applicant, because I do not have enough familiarity with their operations to tell you how they might address that in their operations. And I am turning the page right now to get to the section that states this. But perhaps Chair, when appropriate, the applicant could respond to that to give more detail. But as stated in, and I apologize, let me just get there real fast if I could. As stated in the, let me clarify, I apologize, I made a slight error. So when there are temporary uses on the property, there is a, that's a small consideration of temporary uses. But when there are temporary uses, let's say, for example, they are having an event that is within the parameters. So for example, they're not allowed to have outdoor worship. But if there's a temporary use that is allowed, then that temporary use cannot have sound amplification. So I need to correct the record. Sound amplification is allowed, for example, within the interior of the space. I will let the architect or the applicant explain how appropriate noise buffering is done through the construction. But typically, if they're doing something where the city has to allow the temporary use, so they have to come in and apply for a permit. And if they do that, then we would not allow any sound amplification as part of that. If they were proposing something and asked for sound amplification, the answer would be no. But it does not pertain to the interior operations of the church use. And so I needed to correct that for the record, and I apologize for any confusion I caused.
Okay, thank you for noting that. Then if we can hear back from the applicant, and also I'd like to ask the applicant, what are some types of events where you would be reaching out for a permit for a non-typical use type permit for a special event? What are some of those types of events that you'd be requesting permits for?
Thank you, Chairperson. I can answer you, and I concur with Kevin that the sound amplification was an issue with City Council, and that there was no sound amplification allowed on the exterior on the site. But there will, of course, be sound amplification on the inside. Jeffrey's voice is not that booming as Christy speculated. But as far as noise from the building going out, the building has concerns with just traffic noise and trying to soften and quiet the space on the inside for ministry moments, if you will. So there always is sound attenuation that occurs on the building to keep out the sound from the outside and also to keep the sound on the inside. So, and there are city standards and city codes that when you get to the property lines, certain decibel amounts can't be exceeded, but I don't think that would be a problem with what we have.
And I'd like to jump in with Mr. Snyder on condition 12, just to reiterate what you were saying, that the church can apply for sound amplification as part of an event, and the city would evaluate that and either approve it or deny it, and based on the circumstances. So that's on page 118 of 140 in the staff report. And also on the traffic, As part of the mitigated negative declaration that we did for Mr. Gregorio, we did look at all the traffic impacts and they were studied. And one of the conditions of approval is that based on need, there could be people directing traffic during the high traffic periods to make sure that there's no backup on the street and people park promptly and there's no interference with the area around it. So that's going to help mitigate if there is any issue.
And so that traffic control would be within the property, so in the parking lot or out on Jefferson Street?
Well, it could be either, depending on what the situation is. But we want to get people into the parking lot as quickly as possible, have no backup on Jefferson to interfere with traffic. And so there could be people in the parking lot or at the entrances to make sure that people park promptly. Because if people stall or they stop to talk to somebody, that could cause backup. And that would be what I think Ms. Gregorio was concerned about. And the types of temporary events would be if they had a picnic or a barbecue or anything that would happen outside. Anything outside would be something that we could apply for a temporary use permit. The city would evaluate that and then come up with a list of conditions that we would have to follow in order to have that event. And knowing Mr. Snyder, I know that they will evaluate the event and how it would impact the surrounding area and make sure that it's a minimal impact.
Chair, could I weigh in for a second here too? So the condition number 12 that Mr. Malakoff references states, this is for the conditional use permit resolution 1981. There should be no outdoor sound amplification unless allowed by a temporary use permit pursuant to the City of Indio Municipal Code. There is a conflict, however, because in the specific plan that the council adopted, the for temporary uses, the council directed, and it is actually written into the marked up version that I provided to you, that use of sound amplification equipment is prohibited. This is number 2 under B, temporary uses. So that particular condition of approval, I do believe needs to be modified because it is in conflict. And I think Mr. Malakoff was pointing out that that would be allowed. However, I think it's in conflict with the direction of the city council. I apologize for missing that. But I think that condition number 12 would have to be modified to read that there shall be no outdoor sound amplification for allowed temporary uses. And I think that is consistent with what the intent of the city council when they reviewed this. That was a topic of concern. And I think if Mr. Malakoff or any of the other parties want to correct me or disagree with me, I believe that was the council's compromise, so to speak, that they would, they asked that not be allowed.
Okay, and then Mr. Snyder, perhaps this is a question for you in regards to the applicant stating that they would possibly have some traffic control at certain times if necessary. Would they have authority to conduct traffic control directing public traffic, or would that be something that for liability reasons would have to remain inside their property, like within the parking lot?
They can direct traffic on property. If they want to direct traffic off property, they would have to get permission from the city engineer. They'd have to present a traffic control plan. Now, this could be a plan that they consistently use. It doesn't have to be every single time. But if they are intending to do that, and that's an appropriate tool sometimes to mitigate traffic impacts, because sometimes you can control and move along the traffic flow more easily, then they would need to work with the city engineer to obtain approval of a traffic control plan such that he was confident that it would not create any public safety issues.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay, thank you for your comments, Mrs. De Gregorio. Vanessa, do we have any other public comment?
Yes, I have one more raised hand. Mrs. Susan Bannister, are you available?
I am, and thank you, Vanessa. The chat is disabled, so I wasn't able to respond.
I
One
apologize.
question.
You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I had a question. My name is Susan Wyndham Bannister. I'm a resident of Desert River Estates, which you know is immediately adjacent to this project. And all of the residents of Desert River Estates were noticed of all previous meetings, and many of us have attended. For this meeting, only the residents who I believe were within 300 feet of the proposed project were noticed, and I'm trying to understand why that was, because it really has not given us a chance to submit public comment or really request time to speak. Thank you.
Chair, would you like me to respond?
Please.
So in the past, during the specific plan, because that was a legislative action involving creating of new zoning standards, the city opted voluntarily to do extraordinary noticing because again, it was a legislative action creating new zoning for this property, and we wanted to assure that the surrounding property owners and neighbors had awareness.
And then we were invited to meetings that had to do with the plans, the city council meeting, the proposed plan to the planning commission, far more than conversations about zoning.
Chair, can I respond? That, ma'am, that was associated with the specific plan that was, and the city is legally obligated to do 300-foot notification for the specific plan because of the adoption. And I need to clarify what a specific plan is. Under state law, a party such as the church or any other party can come to the city and ask for the development of site-specific land use and development standards that may not apply anywhere else in the city. So the applicant did that. This was a what we call a legislative change, meaning that it was going to change how the rules apply to the specific property. So the city, again, voluntarily did extraordinary noticing because of the fact that the zoning on that property was going to be changed. And we felt that the surrounding area would know. We're now at the conditional use permit and design review stage, which is implementing the specific plan that was adopted by the city council. And so we utilized the standard 300-foot notification, which is the legal obligation that we're.
I understand, but that's a legal obligation, and yet the church keeps saying that they want to be a good neighbor. And we are one of the communities that will be most significantly affected by the design of this project, whether they in fact do function as a good neighbor. And so I'm just finding it very strange that all of a sudden we're putting legal precedent or law before, you know, the well-being of there are 1,000 people who live along 49th, and in many ways will all be affected. I'm sorry, I know I'm taking more than my 3 minutes, Vanessa, I apologize. But I think that this is really of a lot of concern. And Kevin, with all due respect to you, you've said on a number of occasions during this meeting, things that you made errors in, misstatements, things that were causing confusion. And you can imagine that those of us who are residents nearby, taxpayers in Indio, care very much about how this is being presented and how accurately and the extent to which the church is going to be held to the agreements that they had with the planning council. Vanessa, thank you for the chance to speak.
Chair, may I respond?
Yes,
I
please.
appreciate the speaker's comments, and I apologize if my statements caused any concern or frustration. The document in whole is 185 pages. The errors that I noted are minor in nature. They don't substantively change anything. So I apologize for the errors. You know, as a professional, I don't like to make them, but sometimes they do happen, and it's not my intent to create confusion in making those errors, but they are non-substantive. The modified conditions that I presented to the commission are representative of what I consider minor changes. They do not plan to have loading docks. They've attested to that. So removing those conditions makes sense. The applicant correctly pointed out that the council was comfortable with grass as long as it complied with the Indio Water Authority requirements for water efficient landscaping. And it was pointed out that the outdoor sound amplification condition is not consistent with a specific plan. So when we get back to the discussion, I will be presenting a modification to that. I apologize for these errors. They were not intentional. But I don't believe that they in any way take away from what is in front of the commission for consideration, which is a conditional use permit and a design review application. And a very limited number of errors and corrections that need to be made to a staff report. And honestly, it happens, and I'm not dismissing it, but it does happen as we are preparing a lot of information to put in front of the commission. So again, my sincere apologies for creating any confusion for.
I think my last request, and then my time is over. We have not received an environmental impact report. So I think it would be useful to really understand what the impact is going to be on the 1,000 people, and especially who live along this corridor, and especially those of us who live right next to the project. Thank you.
Chair, can I respond?
Yes, please.
So an environmental assessment was done as part of the specific plan. And under the rules of the state, if a party comes in and that environmental assessment and it was adopted and certified by the city council at the same time that the specific plan was adopted, if an applicant comes forward for entitlement applications under the provisions of that specific plan, there is no additional need for environmental analysis because it is deemed to be consistent. The environmental analysis at that time looked at a variety of issues ranging from traffic to air quality to cultural resources. So it was a complete environmental assessment that was made available to the public when the specific plan was adopted. So legally, the applicant is not obligated, nor can the city require additional environmental analysis unless there was a change in the conditions from the environmental assessment that was certified by the city council, and that did not occur in this instance.
Thank you, Kevin. Vanessa, we have another public comment. Is it the lady who spoke earlier?
Yes,
Ms.
Chairperson. Miss Christy Daniel D. Gregorio is requesting to speak once more. Do you allow this?
Yes, I'll
Okay.
allow that if she'll please keep her comments brief, or she has another quick question.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it is quick. I noticed there are 4 phases. What's the, sorry, it's hard for me to articulate the question. What's the likelihood, or is there a guarantee about whether or not there will be additional phases to the building?
Kevin, can you respond, please?
Yes, and I maybe the applicant will jump in after mine, but the project has a total of 4 phases. Approximately 41,000 square feet of building area could be built out over that timeframe, and a total of 359 parking spaces. The phasing schedule was presented earlier. We know for certain that they do intend to build phase 1. That is their sanctuary building. And the applicant can correct me if I say this wrong, but my understanding based on past conversations is that the additional phases where additional buildings would occur will be contingent upon funding. So the timing of those is contingent upon funding, and perhaps the applicant, if the chair is okay, I could defer to the applicant to supplement anything I've said.
Certainly.
This is David, the architect with Doma Studio again. Just a couple of things. The 4 phases as outlined in the plan is the total build out of the project. That is what the church is planning, and that is a long range plan. They don't know what dates, as Kevin earlier said, when those will be built. And just to follow up, the church is going to be a good neighbor, wants to be a good neighbor. They have reached out and had several neighborhood meetings over the last 2 years, which resulted in a decreased size of the building considerably of the phases, pulling back the building from the residential edges in order to help with noise and so forth.
And also, it's important to know in the history of the project, we cut a significant amount of the square footage down from the original proposal to minimize the impacts on the neighborhood. And that's important to know, as part of the history of the project. Also, the specific plan and the mitigated negative declaration are all part of the public record that either the city or I can provide. If you would like, I'll text you my phone number, and I can get you those documents. So I'll send you my phone number and I can provide you with those documents.
Thank you.
Chair, I have a quick
Commissioner
question.
Lopez? Yes.
Yes. What is your timeline for the different phases of this project?
I think I will refer, it's depending on fundraising. Phase 1 obviously is the first phase, and any phase beyond that really depends on growth of the church and fundraising when that would be available. The church will looking to start construction documents in February or March. So possible construction if fundraising is all there in probably 2023, early first quarter 2023, perhaps.
For all four? Or are
Yeah,
you saying it could be anywhere between 2 years, 10 years?
Yes, 5 years to 20 years to 25 years, yes.
For all 4 phases?
Correct.
No further questions.
Okay. Vanessa, do we have any other public comments to speak?
I don't see public comments. I saw Pastor Cranford had his hand raised.
I would just add one other thing in terms of the long range view, in terms of the phases. This was a small church plant, so it was a considerable effort to raise the money to purchase the land. And I have no idea even for phase 1. It's a substantive task for us, especially having given the fact that we didn't meet for a year and a half. Our congregation has been, decimated is a strong word, but it's been very challenging. And so we really have no view. Our view was to get the piece of property, and it may be past my tenure before we even get this going. So it's just an unknown, and that's an honest, fair appraisal of where we are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chairperson, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I see a raised hand by Mrs. Bannister once more. Would you allow her to speak again?
Yes, once more, Ms. Bannister, if you please keep your comments or questions brief.
I will, thank you. I have a question for Pastor Cranford, if I may. Pastor Cranford, in every one of the hearings I've attended, you have spoken about the church's strong desire to reach into Indio and to service more of the people who live in Indio. And I would like to understand why then is the church choosing to locate on the right on the edge of Indio and La Quinta, as opposed to looking for a site that's further in Indio and is actually closer to more of our residents? I just don't really understand that.
Forgive me, I didn't make the exclusive claim that our view was specifically for Indio. I said East Valley. We realize that a lot of our current parishioners come from all over the valley, in Indio, Indian Wells, Palm Desert, La Quinta. The majority, I don't believe there's been a church built south of 111 in the last 25 years. The growth and the projections from what we could tell in terms of the valley's growth towards Trilogy, Andalusia, and even further east. So just trying to, service the Coachella Valley, trying to service what we feel like we've been called to do. Jefferson was a strategic place for us. And it was one comment was made earlier in terms of the possibility of going into an industrial park or something out close to Interstate 10. I think a lot of people recognize that religious people are willing to travel and go to different places possibly. But as I alluded to, we want to be in and part of the community. And, I honestly, and I'll say this last thing and be close, but I mean, our footprint is 10% of this property. We're talking about meeting in small periods of time on an untraveled time on Sunday. So when I say we're trying to be a good neighbor in terms of all the counseling and families and keeping families together and marriages and all the things that a church does, it really is our view that, we're really trying to reach our neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, if there's no other public comments, then we will close the public comment section. We'll close the hearing on this item and go to commissioner comments or deliberations. Commissioner Franz, would you like to start?
Yeah, I have a question for staff, actually. And,
Okay.
and this is probably a real quick yes or no answer. During the specific plan, I remember there was some discussion about whether the left-hand turning lane, and I would assume that is the heading east left-hand turning lane at Jefferson, would need to be stretched, right, or made longer in order to accommodate the people maybe coming from the north side, or to make a U-turn, or whatever they're going to need to make in order to access the site. Is that part of the plan, or is it not? I couldn't quite see it.
Yeah, so there were two things on Jefferson. There will need to be an extension of the left-hand turn lane identified by the city engineer and the city traffic engineer. And then there will need to be a modification to the non-signalized left turning movement on Jefferson into the site. Those will both be part of the engineering analysis that the applicant will go through with the city engineer's office. They will have to prepare the plans for that to specify that and get it approved. So there will be modifications for those turning movements. And that will be, as I said, reviewed and approved by the city engineer's office.
Okay, in that same thing about traffic moving in and out, when you're coming out of the services, you're going to have to go right and then go down to what? Or either make another right on 49 if you want to go that way, or you were going to have to go down to 111 and make a U-turn if you're heading east. Is that correct? Because there's no other place to turn around, right? If you need to go east as you come out, you're going to have to either make a right on 49 and head that way. And then, sorry, I mean, you go north and then turn around to go south. So the U-turn is going to be the only place to do that at 111, or is there going to be another cutout where people are going to be able to cut in and make a turn?
You're
Did I
right
lose you?
about the
Because I kind of
movements.
lost myself.
Yeah, you're right about the movements. What I cannot remember off the top of my head, and I apologize, is if there is a U-turn allowed at Avenue 48. I'm pulling up an aerial right now to see if I can take a quick look, because if there was that allowed, for example, then they could theoretically make that turning movement there. Give me just 1 second while I pull up at that signal to see if that is allowed. So there is a U-turn allowed at Avenue 48 in Jefferson.
Okay.
So parties could get there. There's two dual left turn lanes there. So there is the opportunity to make a U-turn if the desire of the traveler is to head south. But that would be the earliest opportunity. There's no U-turn movement allowed at Avenue 49 and Jefferson.
Okay.
So that would be their earliest opportunity.
Okay, so with that idea, and we're already talking about, lengthening the left turning lane at Jefferson. Is there any talk about, do we need to look at lengthening that, or was that even part of the conversation?
My understanding and memory of the traffic study is that there was deemed that there was adequate capacity for Avenue 48 such that there did not need to be modifications to that intersection.
Okay.
And as you pointed out, Commissioner, there is a right turn movement opportunity onto Avenue 49 that may or may not meet the needs of all traveling parties, but there is that opportunity. And then, as you pointed out, there is the U-turn opportunity or the opportunity to head north.
Okay, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
I have a question for Kevin, Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you said the U-turn on 48, it's only one lane to make a U-turn. The second lane, I believe, doesn't make a U-turn. I take that road all the time because I shop at Ralph's.
You are
And
correct.
turn into 48. There's only one U-turn lane to
You're
make.
correct. Yeah, so there is two dual left turn lanes. The most western of those left turn lanes is the one that is allowed for U-turns. So you're correct, Commissioner.
Okay. And just to make clear, how many parking, I was a little confused with your reports going back and forth. So how many cars do we have that will be going in and out of that for one service?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to, give me 1 second. I'm going to pull back up the PowerPoint so we can look at this together. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so phase one, a total of 236 parking spaces will be constructed. All right, and the additional parking area is identified in phase four, where the applicant is presenting the opportunity to construct an additional 123 parking spaces. So that will, and as you think about parking, well, there's 584 seats in the sanctuary. The operating presumption in parking analysis and traffic studies is that there will be multiple people in vehicles, right? So they meet the parking standard. They actually drew the parking standard from the city's code. So they meet the parking standard. So, on site, there'll be approximately 360 parking spaces at time of build out. Initially, when they build the sanctuary in phase one, there'll be 236. That may mean, that may mean that they have, and I believe in the operational plan, in the specific plan, they do show the potential for multiple services if needed to accommodate, if they are not able to accommodate in one service. And as you may remember from the specific plan, there was an operational plan component of that. The commission did ask for that. That was included. And so they would be, and that specified allowable hours for various activities. And so they would be bound in their conduct of their services and other business to follow the operational plan.
So is it safe to say about 600 parking spaces, or?
No, it's going to be more total at time of total build out. That concludes phase four. You're looking at right around 360 parking spaces.
Okay, I don't know. I must have.
I think you're thinking the number of seats is 584 in the sanctuary.
Okay.
So
essentially we'll have about 300 and something cars in and out of Avenue, not Avenue, out of coming out of Jefferson.
That is correct. There will be, as you know, as I stated previously into the record, in approval of the specific plan, the city council did limit access into and out of the property to Jefferson.
Yes, I understand that. So I'm just trying to think about traffic. So times 2 services, correct?
There could be potential for multiple services. That was identified in the operational plan, yes.
Okay. So give or take about 300 and, did you say 330, 350 parking spaces there?
At time of full build out, right around 360 spaces. Initially, there'll be 236, which is when they build the sanctuary, which is phase one.
60 spaces. Got it. Okay. I guess I have no further questions. Thanks.
So Kevin, with that being said, let's say it does get to the point where they do need to expand to multiple services, that would probably lessen the amount of vehicles per service. It doesn't mean that they would immediately be 359 parking spaces utilized each service. It might bring it down to about half or 60% for one service, and then spread that out a little bit.
You're right, Chair. I think realistically, if they go to multiple service offerings, it will reduce the number of vehicles that will be traveling into and out of the site, depending on how many services they choose to hold. Again, they'll be conditioned. They are required to follow the operational plan specified in the specific plan. And the other thing I would note is in the approved phasing plan, which was in the specific plan, they have to build the initial 236 when they build phase one. The additional parking would come in phase four to accommodate additional parking needs there. And that's when they build, they're calling it a multi-purpose room. It will not be used as overflow worship for for the sanctuary. It would have a large divisible meeting room, a storage room, kitchen, restrooms, and a mechanical room. So yes.
So overall, phase one has the maximum capacity of 584 seats. Phase two, which will be for children's ministry, maximum capacity is unknown at this time. And phase three would be more administration and possibly like, looks like youth group or something. So, and phase four would not be used whatsoever for any services. It's just a multi-purpose room.
I should note that their description of phase four, which again was approved, is they may do an interior expansion that would increase the number of seats for 965 seats, but per the parking requirements, the 236 stalls constructed in phase one are sufficient. So that finding was already made that they would have adequate area.
So it could be possible that phase four does not include an additional 123 parking spaces. It could be any amount up to that, correct? Or
It
none at
could
all.
be. I'm not speaking for the applicant, but I suspect that there will be a desire, if there's financing available, to have those additional parking spaces to allow more flexibility for service offerings and be able to meet the parking needs of their attendees. But I cannot speak for them. I'm just surmising.
Okay. Commissioner Lopez, any other comments?
Just a quick comment. There's no parking though outside the perimeter, correct? Along Jefferson, for instance, if there's a parking overflow and there's no parking alongside the road, correct?
There would be no parking allowed on Jefferson, and there would be no parking allowed on Avenue 49. So attendees could not do the proverbial park their car and walk over and physically enter the property by foot. They will have to utilize the on-site parking available to them. Now,
Will there be signage dictating that on 49 and Jefferson?
the no parking?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we talked with our city engineer about the idea of reinforcing. There is no parking allowed on Jefferson on any area.
Mhm.
So because of the high volume, that's not signed. It's just not allowed.
Mhm.
For Avenue 49, I've talked to the city engineer, and I anticipate that we will institute some no parking signs to reinforce. I would hope that the church will, and I believe that they have stated to the council and to the commission previously that they do not intend to allow their attendees they will reinforce the message there's no parking on Avenue 49, but we will also reinforce it through signage.
And perhaps maybe we could put some signage on that, like, I can't see the name of the road, but the road on 49 that like leads north into the Rincon community, it might be
Yes.
easier to try and sneak in there and park that rather than 49, if we could have some signage at those entries for some of those nearby communities that there's no church parking or no street parking. I don't know if there's street parking allowed, for that community. Probably is. So maybe just no church parking. I don't know if we can put something like that on the signs.
I will speak with the city engineer. I think we can reinforce the message. And I'm not speaking for the church, but I would sincerely hope that they would stick by what they've already shared with you and the council, that they do intend to, for lack of a word, enforce with their congregants that, to be respectful. They've shared with you, they have a desire and a wish to be good neighbors. And I think this parking situation will be the test of that. So I won't speak for them. They can certainly, the public hearing is still open. So if you would like them, Chair, to speak to this issue to get their feedback on record, that's up to you.
Sure. I think we closed the public hearing, but we can open it if the applicant would like to address that concern.
Okay, Chair, I apologize. You would have to reopen. You'd have to make a statement.
Yes, I'd like to reopen the public hearing.
So basically, with many religious institutions, it's always an issue in the neighborhood to have on-street parking. So it's a standard condition that you not allow that because it is interruption of the residential neighborhood. So the church has every intention of educating the congregants not to park on the street, which won't be allowed anyway. And then the city will reinforce that with additional signage saying it's prohibited or prohibited. And that's what we'll do. So we intend to have everybody parking on site.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing once again and continue commissioner comments and deliberation. Commissioner Valdez, do you have any thoughts or questions for staff?
Only thoughts being on the traffic leading to and out of the church, and there only being a U-turn available for the cars that are driving back east on Avenue 48, and the traffic it might cause to the residents off of Avenue 49 coming in and out of their homes. That and the amount of parking spaces that are going to be provided to their guests or their church members. So yeah, I think that's something that we really need to take into consideration, because we don't want to cause any type of traffic jam or accidents or whatnot on that area. So I think it's something to consider.
Could I respond to the commissioner's statement?
Yes, please.
Commissioner, I agree with you, and I just want to reinforce, and at the time that this was considered by the Planning Commission, you weren't a member of the commission yet. You didn't have the opportunity, unfortunately, to hear the discussion and the presentations on the traffic analysis that was done and was reviewed and accepted by our city traffic engineer. So all of the, I will not say that there will not be traffic impacts, but they were evaluated. They met the city's requirements. So the consideration was given to all those impacts at that time. But unfortunately, again, you weren't a member of the commission then, so you didn't have that opportunity to hear that discussion both in front of the Planning Commission and honestly, a very similar conversation in front of the city council. And the council at that time, that's ultimately why the council, despite the request from the applicant to have an access onto Avenue 49, the council ultimately decided not to have an access onto Avenue 49 other than for emergency purposes only, in order to minimize some of the impacts to the surrounding area. For example, if vehicles were heading westbound on Avenue 49 and there was a turn lane that went into the site that could have the potential for causing significant backup, the city council was not comfortable with that idea. And so that's why they ultimately declined to authorize that access when they considered the specific plan. I just wanted to give that context just to help you, since again, you didn't have that opportunity to be part of those discussions.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, I just have a quick question for staff. Now, being that possibly in the future it gets to the point where multiple services are needed to help with flow and help with congestion in the area, is that something that is solely at the discretion of the applicant? Or is that something that if the city notices that there are some ongoing issues with traffic flow and such, that we can request that they split up services at a certain point? Or how is that going to be determined?
Yes. And the assistant city attorney may want to weigh in as well, but the city has limited authority to dictate when services can be held in terms of the decision-making around that. So if they believe that they can adequately accommodate their congregants with one service. However, if they do decide to do multiple services, the operational plan does specify how that is to be conducted, but we cannot dictate the conducting of the services. That is, we're getting into an arena where the religious protection laws of the United States come into play. And again, I don't know if Mr. Heinzelman wants to weigh in with any additional thoughts on that.
No, I think Dr. Schneider put it very well. There are some limitations generally in this specific plan as to operations. But as he pointed out, there would be restrictions on the city determining when the church decided to hold specific services outside of that.
Yeah, I wasn't saying maybe determine when and times and things like that, but maybe just maybe suggest that it's time to consider adding an additional service if things start to backlog traffic-wise.
And Chair, if you wanted to get additional input from the applicant, it's your discretion to reopen the public hearing to answer that question from the applicant if you believe that that's worth hearing from them for yourself and your commissioners.
Yeah, certainly. If we could reopen the public hearing, if the applicant would like to address that question.
Yeah, you know, I think we all have the same goal, and that is we don't want traffic backup. We want to make it comfortable for people to get in and out of the property. And if we find there is considerable backup, even in the parking lot or on the street, of course, we would look at ways to mitigate that. And maybe it's another service. And if that's the case, then that's something that we would do. So I think we all have the same view of what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing once again. And if there's no other commissioner comments, Commissioner Franz, you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I have some comments.
Please.
You know, I have been on the commission for a little while now, and I was here when the church first came before us. And honestly, the original plan that they presented was nothing that I could possibly get behind. It was significantly larger. There was a lot of requests for things that are no longer part of this plan. And even though, you know, I live not too far from this area, so definitely Avenue 49 is something that I did try to protect to some points. But I know that something is going to be built on that corner, whether it's the church or something else. So I think with the modifications that have been done, with the smaller footprint, with the no outdoor amplified noise, no exit on Avenue 49, at this point, I do not think that this project is unfit for this portion of our city. I do appreciate that the members of the church were willing to work with us to get to this new size and new plan. And with the fact that the city council was willing to approve the specific plan, you know, I really don't see how I could, you know, not support it at this point. I'd love to hear the comments from, of course, the rest of the commissioners. But I think that's kind of where I am leaning, that with the changes that we have done, with all of the comments and things that have been put forward here, that I think we're ready to move forward. I am, and I already asked the question about the errors. I do understand there has been a lot of staff challenges, you know, over the last year. But when projects of this size come before us with these little errors, it just makes everything so much harder. And I understand, and I'm sure that Mr. Snyder is going to work to not repeat this in the near future. I also do understand the 300-foot rule that we all abide by, but I also understand the comments from the residents that live maybe 302 feet, maybe 500 feet, especially when there is a project as big as this next to a development as large as Desert River Estates, that I would hope the city would consider going above and beyond what is required, you know, in the future, to allow the residents to feel that they're being heard. So those are pretty much all my comments at this time. And thank you to the staff and the applicant and everyone for all the time on this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Franz. Commissioner Lopez or Valdez, any other thoughts you'd like to add, or?
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple of thoughts, if that's okay, and just kind
Certainly.
of closing statements here. First of all, I'd like to thank the applicants for working with the city and staff. It's quite a change from the last few presentations that you brought before us. However, as much as things have changed, I still stand on the issues with traffic and with the constituents, the numerous calls and emails I received from constituents regarding the Avenue 49 and the neighboring communities around that corridor there, the 49th and Jefferson down to the on 50th. So I also am a little wary with the maybe 2 years, 10 years, 25 years for all, and it's all contingent upon fundraising. I know that there's no timelines, but again, I just feel that 10 to 25 years to complete that project is rather like long for, especially for that little area and corridor there. And again, the traffic congestion, we get enough of it during the Coachella Festival when folks are trying to make a U-turn on that part. I mean, going down, I travel back and forth a lot down Jefferson, make U-turns or go down 48 to Washington. And sometimes when they've had road construction, traffic gets backed up clear down to past to 50th just to get in, just to make that left turn down to 48. Sometimes we have to go down to Jefferson. So I just, again, my concerns are about public safety and again, about traffic and the amount of cars and between these two services or maybe another service. I just feel that the traffic plan and the traffic congestion there, I just later down the line, 5-10 years down the line and, someone saying, who approved this? This is horrible. Look at the traffic. So, and then again, I know Kevin, there was a bunch of errors and it's trying to get through that. So there's a little bit of confusion there. So yeah, I'm just not sure about moving forward with this project and wish that, I just wish that it was in a different location.
Sure. Can I make a statement?
Yes, please.
I have up on the screen the errors, and I'm gonna take exception to Commissioner Lopez's. There were a total of 4 errors identified, 2 in the resolutions that are incorrect and they should be corrected. The other ones were in the staff report. So I just want to, there were not a bunch of errors. There were 4 errors that were identified. I appreciate Commissioner Franz identified several, the 2 at the bottom, and the Assistant City Attorney identified the first 2. And it's my sincere apologies to the commission and to interested parties that these errors were made. It's as Commissioner Franz said, it's not my intent to make these errors, but I am human. And as she noted, there has been some workload challenges that I've been dealing with, but that doesn't excuse the errors. So I just want to correct for the record that I don't want it to be into the record that there were a significant number of errors. These were errors, but they were a minor number of errors, I should say.
Sorry, maybe strike that. And instead of saying a bunch, I'm sorry. Sometimes I'll say 4 errors. So I'll go ahead and if I can correct that for public record. I apologize, Kevin, for that statement.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I appreciate that was very kind of you. You don't need to apologize. I just didn't want it to be out in the record. The other thing, if I can say something else, I need to officially remind, and again, the Assistant City Attorney may want to weigh in as well, as the commission goes through its deliberation, the city has a legal obligation to make factually based decisions based on what's in the record. There was a traffic study that was done. It was reviewed by the city engineer and the city traffic engineer, and the findings therein were accepted or of the analysis. So I understand there is concern about traffic. I appreciate that, and I'm not in no way discouraging or trying to dismiss those concerns. I just want the commission to remember, as you're going through your deliberations and your ultimate decision making, the facts are in the record. The traffic study has been completed. It's been accepted by professionals hired by the city. The appropriate mitigations will be put in place. The applicant will be responsible for those mitigations. And so I just encourage the commission to be mindful of that part of the process. And again, I would ask if the Assistant City Attorney has any comments to supplement that. If you could.
I think what Director Schneider said is accurate. I guess two minor points in addition to that. There are also, as he noted, there's a traffic study as a part of the mitigated negative declaration that was prepared in the entire project study. So when the specific plan and these kind of the contemplation of these entitlements, which had that traffic study, there are also some conditions of approval in here that relate to some traffic issues as well. So as Director Schneider noted, the traffic situation has been studied by the city. There is public record of that information, and then any sort of findings would need to be based on facts as well.
Thank you, Chair.
So one question though, when you say they're approved by council or by the commission? Because I didn't approve it.
Sorry, if I was unclear, my apologies there. The MND, the city council adopted the mitigated negative declaration when it adopted the specific plan in June or July. Forgive me, I can't remember exactly when that was.
It was June 16th, 2021 to supplement the city attorney, and he is correct. The council went through an adopting action where they adopted and certified the environmental assessment, which consisted of the mitigated initial study and mitigated declaration with all attendant components, including the traffic study. So you're correct, Commissioner. The commission by your 2-2 action did not recommend any action to the city council. So the city council in their decision-making did take the action, but the commission did not.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Valdez, do you have any closing comments or?
I did have one more question. When the traffic study was done, did the study include any of the new projects that are currently being worked on that same street, like the new shopping center, the luxury apartments, or the housing development at Ventana? Did it include any of the projected traffic that those projects would bring in?
Yes, Commissioner. The traffic studies typically take into account what they call background traffic information. So any approved projects within the immediate area were addressed as part of that. And it's a fairly typical practice with traffic studies. They take a look at what has been approved and they look at the analysis that were conducted for those, and then they address that in the traffic study. So the short answer is yes, but I gave a little bit more expanded explanation.
Thank you.
Thank you. My comment would be that first, I do agree with some of the statements from Commissioner Lopez and Franz, and being that when this project first came before us a couple of years ago, we were looking at a 70-foot monument, and then it went to a 50-something foot monument, and then now it is within the specific plan guidelines. Parking has changed, outdoor venues proposed have changed. I don't know if it was at the direction, I believe it was at the direction of City Council. Now we're limiting the traffic on Avenue 49 to help mitigate any of those concerns of the surrounding communities. I feel like a lot of concessions have been made, and a lot of council has limited, a lot of things that can and can't happen. So I feel also in regards to traffic, when we say that we've done a traffic study, in my experience over the last several years on Planning Commission, when we say that we've done a traffic study, it has been very thorough and very extensive, and they take everything into account. I can't think of any projects over the last several years where we've, after the fact, run into significant traffic issues that weren't possibly identified beforehand. That being said, I think that the applicant's done a great job of trying to conform to the wants and the needs of the community, and I'm eager to hopefully see if anyone would like to make a motion to approve these. And I do appreciate staff taking the time to note the corrections so that they're not just verbal. But if anybody wants to take a look at those, and did any of the commission have any thoughts on making a motion?
And Chair, I did put the, if it assists the commission, I would suggest that any motion actions for the resolutions be taken separately.
Okay.
There'll be a motion for each one, and I have put up in front of you the potential motion language that the commission could seek to use if they wanted.
Okay, and the Scrivener errors are to be noted for resolution 1982, correct?
So there will be 1981 with the Scrivener errors, and
Okay,
then also Scrivener errors for 1982 and as amended, the amended conditions that we previously talked about for conditions of approval number 73, 74, and 79 against conditional approval 73 and 74, I'm recommending that they be struck because there's no intended loading docks. And condition number 89 would be to specify what the council directed, that use of grass must be in accordance with current India Water Authority rules pertaining to landscaping and use of grass.
And Chair and Director Snyder, if I may, Director Snyder, did you have a recommendation on condition number 12 for resolution 1981 as well?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, so as noted earlier, I did go back. I wanted to go back. So condition approval number 12, that is in, that was in this conditional use permit where there's no outdoor sound amplification. So I will modify this and amendment. Excuse me while I'm doing this. Amendment to condition approval number 12 of the resolution. Sorry, I'm typing. It's hard to type in PowerPoint for some reason. Of the resolution specifying no outdoor sound amplification equipment. Okay, there we go. So sorry about that. Thank you, Assistant City Attorney. So there are other potential motion actions. And I should note for the record, and Assistant City Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, if the commission, if there is a 2-2 vote, like you did with the specific plan, that is a denial.
Correct. It would be, yeah, no action. Denial would be appealable.
Appealable to City Council.
So no one has made any, can't think right now. And no one has made any motion, correct?
There's no motion on this floor right now, correct?
Okay, then I'll go ahead and I make a motion to deny, to adopt resolution 1981, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Indio approving conditional use permit 20-10-1064 with Scrivener errors note by staff and amendment to condition of approval number 12 of the resolution specifying no outdoor sound amplification equipment to allow a place of worship, Church of the Red Door, on a 13.7 acre project site to be located at the southwest east corner of Jefferson Street, Avenue 49.
Is there a second?
I will second.
And to clarify that, that would be a motion of the denial. Did I hear that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so I apologize as well. So Commissioner Lopez, you stated you started with denial and then you went to adoption. So you
Okay.
are recommending denial of resolution 1981, right?
Yes, sorry, I'm reading what you wrote. So I make a motion to deny resolution 1981 for the record.
Okay, all right. So that is the motion on the floor. There is this, I guess, Chair, because I think there was some confusion. I would recommend we ask Commissioner Valdez if her second was for that denial or if it was for something else.
It was for the denial.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll go to a roll call vote.
Chairperson Isiano,
No to deny.
Commissioner Franz,
No.
Commissioner Valdez,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Commissioner Lopez.
Yes.
So with that, the commission has a 2-2 vote, which is a no vote. And as noted recently by the Assistant City Attorney, that is a denial, which means the applicant then would have the opportunity to appeal to the City Council.
Okay, do we need to make a motion to approve or deny then resolution 1982 at this point, or is it all?
You could make a motion to approve it if you thought that would get a different outcome. But I believe that would still be on the table at this point. I think we're just deadlocked 2-2 on the motion of denying these, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. So do we need to take a roll call vote on a motion to deny resolution 1982?
I would recommend, and as Mr. Heinzelman can weigh in, I think for the record, I think the commission should take a vote action. They, if you are recommending denial of the land use, technically the design review, which is a standalone application but is affiliated, could be voted on. However, the conditional use authorization that is entrusted to the Planning Commission by the City Council would now go in front of the City Council for its consideration under appeal. But Mr. Heinzelman, do you agree that they should go ahead for the record?
I think if it would make sense to act on both items if that is obviously within the commission's discretion, but I agree with Director Snyder's thinking that.
Well, then I'll go ahead and make a motion to deny resolution 1982, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Indio approving design review 20-05-474 with Scrivener errors as noted by staff and as amended for conditions of approval 73, 74, and 89 for site design, circulations, landscape, and architecture on 13.7 acre project site to be located at the southeast corner of Jefferson and Avenue 49.
And Chair, can may I ask a question of the Assistant City Attorney before you take motion action?
Yes.
Heinzelman, does the commission need to state for the record any findings for the denial? I should have asked that earlier.
So if there's a resolution to deny, that would require written findings as to, or it would require findings as to the rationale for the denial. Where we're ending up now is I guess in a sense, lack of action for no securing an affirmative vote.
So lack of action doesn't require substantive findings, but if it was a different vote and it was still being denied, it would.
Like, yeah, I mean, I guess my thinking would be that I believe Commissioner Lopez put forward what I would take to be her thoughts on findings based on the traffic impacts, if I heard that part of the discussion correctly. But to your point, Director Snyder, that we did not call those into her motion. Is that where you're getting at?
Correct. I think it's important for the record, and I apologize, Chair, for having this conversation with this Assistant City Attorney, but I think it's important for the record, if this is going to go on appeal to the City Council for both Resolution 1981 and Resolution 1982, does the Planning Commission have a obligation to specify findings on the record as to the basis? But since we have a 2-2, at least on the Resolution 1981, that was my question to Mr. Heinzelman.
Yeah, and so my recommendation would be we since it won't be anything going forward, there wouldn't necessarily be the findings of the commission. So I guess I would ask if Commissioner Lopez or Commissioner Valdez would put forward the findings behind their motion to their support for their motion to deny.
So based on my statement and my closing remarks is what I'm basing my denial on.
And Mr. Heinzelman, since those were, I think, and Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong, those were also the basis for your motion to deny Resolution 1981 as well, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I think we just put it on the record that Commissioner Lopez, and I'm not speaking for Commissioner Valdez, and she may want to weigh in that those are similar reasons for her vote on that matter. just so we create the record. So if Sheriff would it be appropriate? Would you be willing to allow Commissioner Valdez to affirm a similar set of reasons?
Certainly. Commissioner
Yeah.
Valdez, do you have any, are your thoughts?
They're similar as Jackie's as far as the traffic and the concern for the residents in the area with the traffic.
Okay, will that suffice?
Yes, I apologize for this, but I think it was important because, if the applicant chooses to appeal this, there needs to be a record of the basis for why this vote occurred. And so at least it's on the record. So unless Mr. Heinzman has any additional thoughts, I think this satisfies my question to him.
No, and thank you for the clarification, Director Snyder, and for Commissioners Lopez and Valdez for providing that information as well.
Understood. So do we have a motion? Did we get a second on denying resolution 1982?
I will second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Chairperson Isiano,
No to deny.
Chairperson Franz,
No.
Chairperson Valdez,
Yes.
and Chairperson Lopez.
Yes.
Motion carries as a no vote denial with the appeal to CC City Council for the applicant.
And Chair, if I may, so just to reiterate for the applicant's benefit, both resolutions have been, the vote has 2-2, which equates to a denial. And at this point, it's the applicant's decision if they want to seek appeal to the city council in accordance with the city's appeal procedures, which I can provide to the applicant subsequent to this meeting. If they do appeal to city council, that would require a public hearing before the city council at a date in the future, at which time the city council would be the final decision-making authority on any action relating to both the conditional use permit and the design review. So for the benefit of the applicant and other interested parties and the commission, those would be the appropriate next steps.
Okay, thank you. Okay, being that public hearing item, that was our only item for discussion tonight. Do we have any other commissioner comments or staff items for items not on the agenda?
On this, I'll let the commissioners, I do have a quick staff item, but I will wait until commissioners have weighed in with any thoughts they had.
I don't think we have any commissioner comments. Go ahead, Kevin.
As you may be aware, the city has transitioned to a new agenda management system, iCompass. We've fully implemented this in December. This is our conduct of business going forward. Vanessa, with the city clerk, Vanessa's not been with it much longer because the city clerk has put her foot down. She wants her back. But Vanessa is one of our in-house experts with the iCompass program. And so I wanted to ask the commission 2 questions. 1, do you have any questions for Vanessa at this moment that she can answer pertaining to that agenda management system? And 2, would the commission be interested in a training provided by Vanessa on that system at a near future meeting to assist you as you work in this transition? Because I think it's, on my side, I think after 4 or 5 times using it now, I'm just starting to get the hang of it. And it's a little bit different for the recipients. So is there any interest in the part of the planning commission in having a training, or do you have questions for Vanessa now that she could answer? Because she's happy to if you do.
You have a comment, Vanessa?
I was going to say I could do a quick screen share, especially because the public is viewing and it is a public portal, so the public can see how to navigate it. It is quite simple. Like Kevin said, once you do it once or twice, you will get the hang of it. You will know exactly where to go. So if you would allow me a few minutes just to share my screen and show the public portal, I can do that. Or I could set aside some time at a later date to do one-on-one trainings or group training, whatever the commission prefers.
Any commissioners? I have no objection to a quick screen share. And if anybody needs any further assistance with that, maybe they can reach out to you and schedule some one-on-one time.
Okay, I will share my screen and I will just show you a quick run through. It won't be more than 5 minutes. Should you have any questions in between, please feel free to stop me at any time.
Okay.
So I did share with the commissioners last commission that at this time, you will be receiving an email that will be directly from iCompass. This is your portal. So when you go to our agendas and minutes page through indio.org, you will be directed to this link. It's our Indio Civic Web. It is our new agenda management, agenda management portal. Here you will find anything about council, commissions, agendas, resolutions, ordinances can be found here through Laserfish. Everything about our council can be found in this area. Any previous meetings from the past, I believe, 5 years can be found here in our archive. You could search anything. We are still going through the process of logging in our attendance and votings for city council. We would like to incorporate commissions at some point as well. And any member of the public can subscribe to any of our city council or commission meetings. So that's all here on our homepage. Over here on this right side, you have a calendar. However, you also have these tabs here: home, calendar, meeting, and search. You could go straight to the calendar. From here, you can basically see what's on there, or you could select a date. For today, it shows you we have our planning commission meeting. If somebody were to go on there and select planning commission, the top here gives you a little general intro. It lets you know that the planning commission meets every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. Currently, the location is virtual, so it will tell you Zoom. If you see here in this area, we have the January 12th Planning Commission. If we click there, it will take you to the January 12th agenda. You will see everything here, whatever was on the item. If you scroll up from today's agenda, January 26th. So if you were to click on this link, it's going to take you to the Zoom meeting. I'm already in there, so I'm not going to log in because I don't want it to kick me out. But the link itself is here, the webinar passwords. For any Spanish-speaking residents that want to partake, I do always upload an agenda in Spanish for anybody that does want to follow along. And then if you scroll down, so for the commissioners or anybody that wants to follow through, there's actually a really neat feature that does the HTML split screen feature. So it gives you the agenda on the left side. However, if we want to follow along with the staff report that's provided by staff for any given item, and I apologize, Planning Commission staff reports are anywhere from 200 to 2,000 pages at any given time. So it does take a moment or two to upload, but it will do a split screen. So you could see the agenda and follow along, and you could also do a staff report on the right-hand side at whatever percentage you would like. It'll go through. Here is a staff report that staff presented for this given item. And if you scroll down, it will give you actual attachments. So if you see here, if we're looking for Resolution 1981, we can click item D and it will take you to page 113 and give you Resolution 1981. It's a good way to follow along should you so choose so, especially for commissioners that want to look at all the attachments that are given. We could go back here. This is going to take us back to our page. Again, I'm only concentrating on Planning Commission, but council has the same method. I could take you to the January 5th council meeting. and the same things apply. That's how our council does receive the same agenda, same staff report. We're converting to this new method. And the one other thing I did want to mention, we did receive a public comment, a written public comment that was received via email. So if you go to this meetings page up here, it will take you to meetings. This top portion is solely for city council or public participation. It lets you know, should you choose to participate in public comment, you can email the city clerk. Planning Commission has a different first page indicating that you email commission secretary. If we scroll down here, we see Planning Commission. There's actually a linked area here for public comments. Should anybody of the public choose to view public comments that were received for any given item, they would click the link. It would take them to this page and they could view all public comments submitted for city council or public commission. I apologize, planning commission. Those are the only two that we generally receive public comments on. Should we receive any for arts or mobile homes, we will create that folder for anybody to view. This was the comments that were reviewed for Mr. Keller and uploaded to the web. And that's kind of a quick overview. I know I said 5 minutes, but should you have any other questions, please feel free to.
Can I ask Vanessa one quick thing? Vanessa, I believe that the planning commission members are automatically subscribed. So when there is a published, when the staff report and other information is published, they automatically get notified. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I actually went ahead and subscribed them on my end as an admin through the portal. So they should each get a notification. I'm going to go through here and actually look through that planning commission email. So this is what you all, any subscriber, I should say, so any member of the public could actually go in and view a planning commission. And I do have a lot of subscribers to all the different commissions, so it's up to them to go in. So on the portal page themselves, if you're interested in subscribing to one or two or all of the commissions, you would simply click here to subscribe. You would enter your information. It's not going to allow me to because I'm already subscribed, but you would click whichever council meeting you're interested in or commission meeting, and then you would enter your email address, go through the little prompts and subscribe.
Thank you. Commissioners, any comments? I know that a few of us had a little bit of a difficulty navigating and getting to that Zoom link today, but this is a pretty good description of how to do that. Or would anybody still like to receive that email as we had in the past with the direct Zoom link? Anyone? Everyone's okay with this method? Okay, so if anybody has any other questions or needs some training on this, we can reach out to you directly, Vanessa, for the time being.
Via phone, email, we could set aside some time to run through it one-on-one just until you're comfortable, and we could still have the secretary email you those links or agendas should that be the case.
Okay. And that will be the new secretary. Can you give us her name and can we get some contact information for her?
Yes, sir. Her name would be Clementina Baragon. She is the new administrative admin assistant for CDD. So she will be reporting to Kevin. I believe as of February, she will be taking over those meetings. Again, should you need anything, always feel free to contact me. I would be more than happy to assist you or to direct you to whoever can assist you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Kevin, are there any other staff items or anything else you'd like to mention?
There are not. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, then at this point, we'll go ahead and adjourn to the next planning meeting, February 9th, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you.